QuickBooks Pro Plus Desktop 2022 Populate Invoice using Billable item that was created from a purchase order. Get ready because we bookkeeping pros are moving up the hilltop with QuickBooks Pro Plus Desktop 2022. Here we are in our Get Great Guitars practice file, going through the setup process with the View dropdown, the Open Windows list on the left-hand side, Company dropdown, Home page in the middle, maximizing to the gray area, Reports dropdown, Company and the Financials, looking at that balance sheet standard report, customizing it with a range change, 010122 123122. Fonts and the numbers, changing that font to 14. Okay, yes please, and okay. Hitting the drop down again for the reports, Company and Financial, looking at the profit and loss this time, range change 010122 123122, customizing the report, and then the fonts and the numbers, changing that font size to once again 14. Okay, yes please, okay. Reports drop down, Accounting and Taxes, look at the trusty TB, range change 010122 123122, customizing it as well, fonts, numbers, changing the font to 14. Okay, yes please, and okay. So let's go back to the home page in the Open Windows on the left-hand side. In prior presentations, we've been following a purchase order that we created, and then we created a bill receiving the information or the inventory that we requested with the purchase order. As we tracked the bill, then we tracked the customer as well. Now we're going to turn around and create the invoice, linking the invoice to the bill that was linked to the purchase order. Let's see if we could follow that a little bit more in depth and get back to the train of thought that we had going in prior presentations with the vendor dropdown, vendor center. So we started on the vendor side of things, the purchasing side, and now we're going to go to the sales side of things. We had a purchase order, so I'm in the transactions tab, go into the purchase orders. I'm going to look at all the purchase orders because we have then said that we have received the purchase order, and we made this one, I believe, for Fender. So we got the Fender item here. If I double click on that purchase order, Fender was our new vendor, you'll recall, and we had a good time saying Fender, the new vendor, which is still fun to do. Might do it some more now, but in any case, Fender, our new vendor, was here, and then we had the new customer down below, which was the new music stuff. Now, Fender, the new vendor, doesn't care about our customer, but that allows us to track it through so that when we receive the inventory, we can then know that we purchased this inventory for a customer, turn around, give the invoice. So then what happened is we got the inventory. We're imagining it comes into the warehouse. We made a bill for it. So if I go to the bills item down below, and we look at the bills, I might just look at the open bills in this case and say I have an open bill. There it is for Fender. Double clicking on the bill for Fender. We entered this one in, and now we have this represent the accounts payable going up, and that we have received the inventory going up, and also increasing the subledger, the units going up and the dollar amounts going up. And it tells us here that we have that for the new music stuff, and it's a billable item. That means that now that we have the inventory, there's two things we could do from here. One, we can pay off the bill. So we're going to have to pay off the bill paying vendor. And the other is what we're going to concentrate on now, is that we're going to turn around and go to the sales type of thing and say, hey, look, new music stuff, customer, you asked us to go to this new vendor, Fender, to purchase these Squire guitars. We have them now. Now we're going to invoice the customer. That's where we're at this point. So I'm going to close this back out and then go to the home page. And let's just create an invoice then. We're going to be making an invoice for the normal kind of make an invoice process. And I hit the drop down, and I think it was, I forgot the name already. It was like the new music stuff, music store stuff. It was new music stuff. And then we get this pop-up that says, hey, and I'm paraphrasing here, hey, we got some of these billable items. Do you want to use those items to populate the invoice? And we're going to say, yes, please. We've got the tabs up top, time, expenses, mileage. We have an item, an inventory item to be specific. We're going to select that item to use it to populate our invoice and say, okay. So now let's put this in place as of, I forgot where we were, but let's say 02, let's say 24, and then 22, 02, 24, 22. There is our invoice terms. Let's put the terms on the net 30. And then we have our Squire populated that just pulls in automatically. We got the 20. This all pulls in from as it flowed through the purchase order to the bill to here. And it did put it on the books, which is nice. Not from the cost, what we paid for it, but because it's an inventory item, it put it on the books for the sales price. So we do have it on the books for what we are selling it for. And then this is a standard invoice from this point forward. What is it going to be doing? It's going to be increasing the accounts receivable because that's what invoices do by the full amount, including the sales tax of the $5,124. It's going to be increasing the sales, not including the sales tax on the income statement by the $4,880. The difference being the sales tax of $244 is going to then go to the sales tax liability on the balance sheet. We'll also have a decrease to the inventory account for an amount that's not on the invoice but driven by it through the item. It knows it by the item. The other side going to the cost of goods sold. And then we got the subledger for the accounts receivable by customer and the inventory by unit. So let's go ahead and save it and close it and then check that out. We'll double check it. I'm not going to email it. It's a practice problem. It's just practice. We're just practicing here, QuickBooks. We've changed it. I'm going to say okay because we changed the terms. So that'll be the standard terms now for vendor, our newest vendor. And then we're going to go to the trial balance and check this out. So we said the accounts receivable should be going up, double clicking on it. There it is. It goes up for the full 5124. That's the full amount down below, closing that back out. Closing this back out, the other side going to our income account, which is sales, double clicking on it. It goes up, not including the sales tax, by only the $4,880. That's what we charged for it without the sales tax. Closing it back out and it back out. The difference goes to the payable, the sales tax payable, which is right there. It's going to go into that payable account. So there's our invoice here for the payable, broken out in these two categories, but for that one invoice on 224, closing it out, we also have the inventory asset going down. Double clicking on the inventory asset, we can see that it is going down with the invoice by the $3,350, an amount not on the invoice but driven by it due to the item. The item knows, even though it doesn't tell us what it is on the invoice, because that's the way it is. And then we're going to go down to the bottom and say that the cost of goods sold, double clicking on it, we then see once again that 3360 here. Closing this back out, we can also see the supporting accounts for the accounts receivable and inventory, the sub ledgers, which are important. Reports drop down. Let's do the accounts receivable by customer first, customers and receivables. Let's go to the customer balance detail. And customer balance detail, this was new music stuff right there. I believe it was that one, right? Yeah, that's the one. So we have it, and then the total down here ties out to that 19,811.50, which should match the trusty TB. It should be, hold on a second. Customers, it's 19,811.50. That's right, it matches. And then the inventory, let's take a look at the inventory sub-ledge. And we're going to go to the reports drop down, inventory, and take a look at the inventory valuation summary. As of 12/31/22, this is what we have left cost at now, the $6,266, matching the trustee trial balance. Looks good. If we wanted to see this information on the balance sheet and the income statement, go into the balance sheet. The accounts impacted were the accounts receivable, the inventory, as well as the payable for the sales tax payable on the income statement or profit and loss P&L side of things. We had an impact on the sales up top and the cost of goods sold, the net of the two being the impact on gross profit and net income at the bottom line. So that's what we have it. Let's go back to the trustee trial balance. This is what we have thus far. If you've been following along, you can check your numbers out. And if they match up, great. If they don't, try changing the date range. It's often a date range issue when something is wrong. If it still doesn't match up, we will be doing a transaction detail, which is another place to check it at the end of the section. And we will try to make backups too, and hopefully those backups will be working. So if you want to rework something, then you can use the backups. Although again, QuickBooks has kind of changed their checkup process for restoring process to identify the accounts online. So that it might be a little bit more glitchy to get the backups working, but I think they will be working, and we will be making them and providing them to you.